When starting to learn Python, choosing the right working environment is almost as important as learning the language itself. Python can be written and executed in many different tools, and for beginners, this variety can sometimes feel confusing. That's why platforms like Anaconda are so helpful. They bring together many useful tools and libraries into one organized environment designed especially for learning, scientific, computing, and data analysis. Hello and welcome to Ben Academy. In this video, we will explore the Anaconda environment and take a look at the main tools available inside Anaconda Navigator. Among these tools, we will focus on Jupyter Notebook, which is one of the most popular environments for learning Python. Its interactive structure allows us to write code step by step, see results immediately, and combine explanations and code in the same documents, making it especially suitable for beginners. Let's get started. Opening Anaconda Navigator, as you can see, feels a bit like opening a toolbox for scientists and programmers. Each icon you see here is a different way to interact with Python. They all run the same language actually, but each one is designed for a different style of working. Let's walk through them one by one so the environment stops looking mysterious anymore and starts looking useful. The first one, that is cmd.exe prompt. It opens the classic Windows command prompt with the current Anaconda environment activated. It allows you to run Python commands, install packages, and manage environments using text commands. It's very powerful, but beginners usually don't start here because it requires remembering commands. The next one here, it is the PowerShell prompt. It's similar to the first one that was cmd.exe prompt, but using Microsoft PowerShell. Many developers prefer it because it offers more advanced command line capabilities. Again, it's mainly for environment management and running scripts from the terminal, so it's not recommended for beginners. The third one is the Jupyter Notebook, as you can see here in the second line at the beginning. And Jupyter Notebook is one of the most beginner-friendly environments. It opens in your web browser and allows you to write Python code in small blocks called cells. I'll show you what's the cell and what kind of cells can be defined in a Jupyter Notebook environment. You can run each cell separately and immediately see the results in Jupyter. So you can also mix code with explanations, equations, and images. It's widely used for learning Python, data science, and teaching, and I recommend you to use Jupyter for starting as a beginner. The next one that is similar to Jupyter Notebook is Jupyter Lab, and it's placed in the first line at the end of that line. It's a more advanced version of Jupyter Notebook actually. Instead of a single notebook page, it provides a complete workspace where you can open notebooks, text files, terminals, and plots in multiple panels. It's powerful and flexible, but for beginners, it may feel slightly more complex. So I don't recommend it for you as a beginner if you want to just start programming and just start scripting with Python. The next one is this one, Qt console. This is an interactive Python console connected to the Jupyter system. It works like a terminal, but with features such as syntax highlighting and inline plots. It's useful for quick experiments, but not usually the main place where beginners write full scripts. So I don't recommend it again for you. An advanced environment is Spider in the third line. In the beginning of the third line, you can see it. Spider is a full Python development environment designed especially for scientists and engineers. Its interface resembles MATLAB. If you have experience using MATLAB, it's very similar to MATLAB environments with a code editor, variable explorer, console, and debugging tools like MATLAB. It's very good for writing structured scripts and larger programs once you move beyond basic experimentations. I recommend you start with Jupyter Notebook, but after a while, after being more advanced and gaining more experience, you can switch to Spider and you can start prepare the separate programs and develop your own programs with Spider. The next one is PyCharm Professional, as you can see in the second line, this icon. PyCharm is a powerful professional IDE developed by JetBrains. It includes advanced tools for large software projects, web development, and debugging. However, it can be heavy and complex for someone just starting to learn Python, so I don't recommend it for you as a beginner. And the other one in the first line is DataLore. DataLore is an online notebook platform by JetBrains, again, to collaborative data analysis. It's designed for cloud-based work and team collaboration rather than local beginner scripting. So for you to start writing a code, it's not recommended again, and you can work it with other colleagues as a team collaboration, and you can use the cloud space to share your information. The other one that is close to DataLore, you can see IBM Watson Studio Cloud. This connects to IBM's cloud platform for data science and machine learning. It's meant for large-scale data analysis and AI workflows, not for basic Python learning. So far, I have introduced the first two lines, but in the last line, three items are remained. GlueViz is one of them. GlueViz is a scientific visualization tool for exploration of relationships between different data sets. It's used mainly in research environments and data analysis projects, not for scripting as a beginner. And Orange 3 is a visual data mining tool. Instead of writing code, here you can build analysis workflows by connecting graphical components. It's useful for learning data analysis concepts, but not for learning Python programming itself. And the last one is RStudio. RStudio is actually an environment for the R programming language, not for Python. And it appears in Anaconda because Anaconda can manage multiple languages used in data science. It's not only for Python. So which one should you start with? I told you in the middle of my words, and I prefer to start with Jupyter Notebook. For a beginner learning Python syntax and basic scripting, Jupyter Notebook is the best starting environment, I think. And it allows you to run code step by step, see immediate results, and experiment easily. Later, once you feel comfortable writing longer programs, you can switch to another IDE, full IDE environments like PyCharm or Spider. As a next step, you can use them. So for now, and for this tutorial, I will focus on Jupyter. Before going to Jupyter Notebook and introducing the different parts in Jupyter Notebook environment, let's show you the other parts in Anaconda Navigator. You can see here that there is a home, environments, learning, and community. Home is the same page I showed you. Think of it as the launchpad. All the applications installed in the Anaconda distribution are showed here. And we can see Jupyter Notebook, PowerShell prompt, and the other things. And I introduced them, all of them, for you. But environment is one of the most important concepts in Anaconda. An environment is basically an isolated workspace that contains its own Python version and its own libraries. This prevents conflicts between projects. For example, one project might need Python 3.8 and another might require Python 3.11. Instead of breaking your system by mixing everything together, Anaconda lets you create separate environments, so each project runs independently. From this tab, you can create, clone, or update, or remove environments and install packages. But for you as a beginner, it's not a place to work on. The other two items here are learning. You can find some learning packages on the web, and you can read them. There are very useful tutorials about different applications and different environments of Anaconda. You can find them and you can read them if you like. And the community, that is a place to connect you with the wider Anaconda and Python ecosystem. It usually links to forums, documentations, blogs, and open source resources where users share tools, codes, or ask questions and discuss about different problems in the Python or generally in Anaconda or Navigator environments. So let's go back to the Home tab and launch Jupyter. If you click on Launch in Jupyter Notebook, as I told, a browser will be opened and you can see the environment of Jupyter Notebook inside the browser, but it will be directly connected to the kernel of Python, and I will introduce different parts of this environment for you. For starting the work and to open Jupyter Notebook environment, you should click on New, and if you click on Python 3, you can see that another tab is opened and Jupyter Notebook is going to be open for you. This is the main environment of Jupyter Notebook environment, and I will introduce different parts of it for you to start. And in the next videos, you will be able to work with the different icons and different menus, and you can start scripting. When we open Jupyter Notebook, the interface may look simple, but every part of it has a specific role in helping us write and run Python code. Let's walk through the main parts of the working environment. At the very top, we see the menu bar. Similar to other programs, you can see different menus here. From here, you can create new notebooks, save or work, run codes, or restart the Python kernel, or manage different notebooks option. It works much like the menu bar in many other programs, and we may use different items in this menu later during the tutorial, and we will use them. Just below the menu bar is the toolbar. The toolbar provides quick access to the most commonly used commands that are also available in the menus. Instead of navigating through menus, we can simply click buttons to save the notebook, for example, or creating a new cell, or run the code, and so on. Now let's look more closely to the toolbar. The first button is save. It's similar to other programs. This button saves the current notebook file. In Jupyter Notebook, files are stored with the extension .ipynb, which stands for Interactive Python Notebook. It's good practice to save frequently while you're working. The next button is insert cell below. For example, you can see here, if I click on it, different cells are created. Every field that is created here is called cell. In the classic Jupyter Notebook environment, there are three main types of cells. The first and most important one is the code cell. This is where you can write and run Python code. When we execute a code cell, the Python kernel processes the commands and the result appears directly below the cell. The output can be numbers, text, tables, according to your text, or graphical plots. Code cells are actually the core of the programming in Jupyter environments. The second type of cell, as you can see in this menu, is Markdown. Markdown cells are used for writing explanations and documentations. Instead of codes, we can write formatted text, titles, lists, links, emails, and even mathematical equations, just for explaining what you are writing and what you finally want to get as output of your code. This makes the notebook very useful for tutorials, reports, and research because we can combine explanations and code in the same document. The third one that you can see is raw NVC convert. The raw cell is simply plain text that is not executed as a code or cannot be formatted like Markdown. It's usually used when exporting notebooks to other formats such as LaTeX or HTML, where the text may need to remain unchanged. In practice, most notebooks mainly use two types, code cells and Markdown cells, and raw cells are rarely used. The fourth one is heading, but it's not available anymore. If you click on it, you can see that for insert a heading, you can use the same Markdown cells and you can write something like this for write a heading. So it's not available anymore. And we can see that it's converted to Markdown instead. After that, we have the cut cell button. You can see this removes the selected cell and stores it temporarily so it can be pasted somewhere else. For example, now this cell is selected. If you click on cut, it's removed and it's stored in the memory of the system and you can paste it wherever you want. And similarly, copy and paste have the same concepts. You can copy a cell or you can paste any cell that is copied or cut before in any place you want. With these two arrows, you can move the cells down or up. And the most important button here is run. This is most frequently used button and it executes the code inside the selected cell and displays the result immediately below every cell. And what is kernel? In Jupyter Notebook, the part that actually runs our Python code is called the kernel. The kernel is the computational engine working behind the cells. When we write code inside the cell and run it, the notebook sends that code to the kernel, and that kernel executes the codes and the instructions inside the codes and sends the result back to you, and the notebook will display the outputs under the cell. The kernel also keeps the memory of the current session. For example, when we define a variable in one cell, the kernel stores that variable in memory so that it can be used later in other cells. As long as the kernel is running, it remembers all variables, imported libraries, and calculations. The next one is interrupt the kernel. This is like pressing the emergency brake on a running program. If a piece of code is taking too long or stuck in an infinite loop and you couldn't find the result in a meaningful time, the notebook becomes busy because the kernel is still working. Clicking interrupt kernel tells the kernel to stop the current calculations immediately, but keep everything else in memory. So all the libraries, all the variables, everything will be kept for you. Nothing is erased. Your variable and previous results remained. The next button is restart the kernel. This completely resets the Python engine. When you restart the kernel, all variables disappear, all imported libraries disappear, the memory is cleared, and the session starts fresh. It's like turning a computer off and on again. After restarting, if you try to use a variable you defined earlier, Python will say it doesn't exist anymore. So you should define it again, you should import the libraries again, and you should do everything you've done before from the beginning. The last one here is restart the kernel, then rerun the whole notebook. This one is very interesting and extremely useful for programmers. It first restarts the kernel, so memory is empty. And then it runs every cell in the notebook from top to bottom automatically. And scientists and data scientists use this to check their notebook works correctly from the beginning to end. When your job has finished, it's better to use it to see if your work is completely executable or not. So now you can start working and writing scripts in Jupyter Notebook environment. And from the next video, we will start scripting, and you can start writing your codes in code cells, or you can write explanations in markdown cells. I will tell you how you can do them, and you will learn all of them gradually, step by step. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope this video was useful for you. If you have any question, you can write your comments below this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and follow our channel to not lose any lesson from this tutorial and others. See you in the next videos.